Everyone, it's me again. I finally decided to make another video. I don't know if any of you missed me, but yeah, I'm gonna try to make these more consistently. So, I'm back home in Portland, and it's kind of weird not doing anything as everyone else goes back to school or starts their new job, and I've been kind of sitting around trying to just enjoy doing nothing for a bit, which I've only ever done for 2 weeks at a time. Now my 2 week deadline and such is almost up, and yeah, I'm like kind of dreading, but also looking forward to getting around to all the personal stuff that I never did, like watching more movies. Yeah, watching more movies, hanging out with old high school friends, and I am personally working on sending out a newsletter about Asian Americans and the news. And like, I know to me it feels kind of like work, but not quite, because it's kind of a personal accountability thing, and there's no deadline, so it's kind of its own challenge, and it has its ups and downs and pros and cons. But yeah, I don't have any excuse to procrastinate on self-care now. And I really do think that I have quite an intuition for what kinds of things I need when it comes to like really big life decisions. Maybe not so much for the day-to-day things, but I don't regret taking a break, even though every bone in my body is like screaming or whatever, that like, you're useless because you don't have a job, because all your friends have jobs, and what are you doing, you lazy piece of shit, like stuff like that. I'm a huge perfectionist, as I've mentioned in previous videos, and I really don't like feeling not good enough for my family in some ways, because while they really support me with my career, and they really like, well, in theory, I'm pretty sure that they like really are like encouraged or proud of me. They don't really say so, though. They're more of the traditional types where, well, at least my mom and my sister are really put together and really organized, and their rooms are always clean, and they have like routines for everything, and they have no idea how I've lived my entire like 4 years of college, like moving around so much and not really caring if I go to bed on time, or like if I look perfectly put together like every single second or something. They kind of give me a lot of shit about it, and they're all like, why don't you do this? Like, why don't you blah blah blah? Like, yeah, my mom always talks about how, like, in Chinese it's kind of hard to explain, but she basically talks about how she kind of pities that I chose a job and an existence that is hard and provides little concrete rewards. Like, she thinks it's weird that I would do journalism when it's not going to make me much money. I feel like my family puts a lot of pressure on themselves to be successful, but my parents kind of see it from a monetary standpoint more. They don't really understand why I am a writer on principle, and out of everything in journalism, why I would pick writing, the least rewarding but arguably to them most stressful part. And I mean, I don't really know what to say when they ask me, because I just feel like if I just say, oh, like, because I want to make a difference, then like they'll be like, that's foolish, because there's already too much shit. Like, who are you to think that? I mean, it's kind of like the Asian immigrant, like, culturally, like, Asian immigrants just have always kind of ingrained this view into their kids that you gotta look out for your own. The communists are gonna come for you if you look out too much for your neighbor and not enough for your own children, blah blah blah. It's kind of a survival tactic to be a little more self-serving and not speak out against things you think are wrong, or be like an activist type, or be like a really idealistic principle type. Yeah, at the same time, all the famous poets, all the famous like artists in China are so revered and respected, but everyone knows that the government's going to come for them and censor their work any day. And, you know, like growing up, I was just aware that like all these like famous Chinese artists and such ended up maybe dying in jail or in exile or had like unhappy lives. And like I think my parents have this idea that I can't have a quote normal life and therefore my life won't be happy. And yeah, my mom frequently worries if anyone's ever gonna want to marry me or something because I'm so not this traditional like flower of a girl who like, you know, holds her tongue and just wants to do housework all day. And it's really kind of, I mean, I think growing up feeling like that really did a number on how I view success and whose opinion I actually care about. Because I have so many more people telling me that I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be fine, and yet in the back of my head, I feel like I will never have enough validation to prove that until I am literally successful in making it. And even then, I'm beginning to suspect that it's not going to be enough because from a lot of people's standpoints, I already have a lot of success with how many internships that were really competitive I've procured, how many connections I have, how many friends and just support from professors and mentors and such, and how popular I am at AAJA, I don't know, but yeah, whenever I come home, it's not a particularly like externally combative environment, and I really do love my family, but I mean, and everyone feels misunderstood by their family to an extent. Like, I mean, it's not like perfect, none of us are, but you know, I forgot how hard it is, you know. I think living with them too, and like realizing that I have to follow their rules and having to abide by standards that I totally reject now as an adult. It's been difficult, and I feel like this is probably the biggest challenge I will undergo, because I'm good at what I do. I'm really good at having instincts with my career, but I don't really know how to deal with a lot of intimate relationships where there's a lot of conflict and clash. I don't really I like to think I don't shy away from conflict, but I think part of me does. Yeah, I'm beginning to realize that a lot of these inner judgments that I think I suppress but really manifest loudly and dramatically sometimes when it comes to if someone pushes me to a breaking point, the way my parents really like to do because they just want to see like what I'm actually feeling. Yeah, I didn't realize that because I think it's easy to like hold my tongue with people I don't really know because who gives a fuck, but with people who are literally knocking down my door trying to figure out where I am at and what I really think when I don't really care to share it or even think about it, that's when I can feel like my blood pressure rising and I can feel myself having the little bit of temper that I have rise to the surface. Like, for example, my mom will literally like not know when to take a hint to stop nagging me about how I'm not doing this one thing right, and you know, I'm stuck between wanting to call her out the way I would some stranger I don't care about, and also like being nice about it. And I feel continuously with my family I fail at this again and again, and it makes me wonder, maybe I don't have a good temper, or maybe I'm not actually that good with conflict. And I realize, I mean, it's just like the one exception to the rule of like, otherwise I'm pretty good at like not lashing out. And even when I lash out, it's like maybe like slightly irritated as opposed to completely blowing up and such. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of just like old wounds I have about like my worth and living in a community that really values like being wealthy and having the latest advances in technology. And I don't really give a shit about that stuff. I'm literally like fighting tooth and nail for very, in a very like hard profession. And I think I really care a lot about being understood, as you know, I've come to realize. And I feel like I've tried harder with this community to explain myself, and still they don't get it. And I don't know why I still am so upset about this time and time again, that I try so hard, but it doesn't seem to matter to these people, that they don't want to talk about politics, or they don't appreciate what I have to offer, and they maybe to some extent can implicitly look down at me because I didn't have the or traditional school intelligence to get through and get a CS degree, or like whatever, biochem, whatever. But yeah, I live for moments of validation when my sister tells me that I'm good at something, or that she looks up to me. And I live for those moments when my mom says, "Oh, I'm surprised you know how to do this is this," or "I'm surprised that you seem to this is this." The other day we had a really bad fight where she talked about, like, how it seems she's never good enough for me, and I was like, well, actually, I've been telling you for years that I'm not good enough for you, so isn't this the pot calling the kettle black? And then she goes on about how I've changed, and I'm like, yeah, it's part of growing up. And I was just, like, so aware that, like, we're having this, like, stupid cliche mother-daughter fight, but it didn't seem to make me feel any closer to her. Like, I have to, like, viscerally pull out emotion that turns off during fights to, like, calm her down, and she just has the kind of personality where she won't care if you're, like, in obvious agitation, which I guess to me it seems obvious, but maybe not to her. Yeah, I love her, probably, like, she awakens more emotion in me than anyone else in my family, because we're kind of similar to a certain extent, but we're different enough to where I feel like we'll talk forever, but she'll never be on the same page as me. She'll never know when to just drop it. And then she'll blame me for reacting or being unhappy, and I'm like, you can't control how I feel. I don't know. I think that having the headspace, having only this kind of problem to deal with, and not having anything else to distract me is good. But I have to remind myself of that each and every single day when I wake up, and I'm happy to be home and taken care of, but also I can feel myself rolling my eyes because I just know that we are going to fight again. And fighting every single day with someone is not something that I like incorporating as part of my daily routine. Even though I'm really outgoing, I like to live a relatively unbothered life. And when I pick a partner in the future, I definitely don't want to be with someone who's going to nag me 24/7. Like, I'm not a naggy person either. I'm really chill, and some people seem to think that means that I'm hiding a lot of negative opinions, when really I don't think my negative opinions or whatever you think I'm repressing matters enough for me to hold it against you until you yell at and attack me enough for me to, like, basically let off some steam on you. I don't know. In any case, like, this is one of those videos, I guess, where it's like, oh my god, so typical. She has problems with her family. We all do. But I don't talk about them to, like, anyone. I don't really think about them. And I'm kind of unimpressed with how bothered I am by all of this. But, I mean, this isn't really stuff that I would ever write about or feel comfortable with, like, a lot of people to talk about at length, except my best friend, who also has just gotten out of a year's worth of living with her family, so she commiserates. But we also have different types of conflict. And yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm kind of desperate for ways to literally train my brain to not give a crap what they think, and to just put up with their shit, and to just keep the peace. But for some reason, I can't keep the peace with them and be as level-headed and call it love or whatever, but I don't like this feeling. But I'm sure it's healthy for me. I'm sure we will get along better at the end of this 4-month self-retreat than we did earlier, but for now, progress seems incrementally slow. But yeah, I'm going to Europe at the end of September with my mom for 3 weeks. I don't know if we'll fight a lot because we'll be on vacation, and we don't really fight when we're on vacation, but it's also going to be just the two of us. Yeah, my dad puts it this way: me and him fight the least, but me and mom fight the most, and I'm just like, that is completely true, and I, yeah, I have nothing really to say. Like, my dad was like one of those like spitfire, like passionate, really good at like art stuff when he was younger people. And my mom actually told me the other day that she really admires that about him and admired that about him, which is why they got together in the first place. And I'm just like, then where did your appreciation of art go, and why the crap do I not feel any of it? I didn't say that though. I was thinking that. But instead I tried to funnel it into a more productive criticism by being like, oh, well, it seems that it's a common way we could connect if you, like, you know, cared about that stuff more now. And she was like, oh, I've actually been listening to these cool audiobooks, blah, blah, blah. And then we talked more about that. I think part of an inherent clash, too, is I try to exclusively speak Mandarin with my parents. And even though I'm really good, I'm still not good enough to translate my more complex thoughts in English. And so I'll like give like a half-baked explanation sometimes, and they'll kind of fill in the blanks. And then I'll get too tired, but then I'll also I'll be too angry to like switch to English and like risk complicating everything more. And then it gets messier, and I'm just like, why didn't I just use English originally? But I mean, I think part of them respects me for the fact that I always use Chinese regardless, and really it's like a symbolic representation that I'm trying to reach out to them. So yeah, in summation, if you got this far, once again, thank you. I feel really unappreciated by my parents, but I also know that part of that is my problem for having unrealistic expectations of the people that have known me the longest, but who might not necessarily understand me the most. So I need to get a reality check and just, you know, keep on pushing and adjusting to being home. Okay.